Have you ever felt like you're just floating? Like everyone else got the instruction manual for life and yours got lost in the mail? That's been me, Leo, for the past, 20-something years. My life has felt like a giant loading screen stuck at 98%. I've been living in this tiny apartment that smells faintly of my neighbor's questionable cooking and my own unfulfilled potential. My job, let's just say it involves a lot of spreadsheets and staring out the window, wondering if this is really all there is. It pays the bills, sure, but it doesn't exactly make my soul sing. And then there's love. Oh, the big lovey. In an age of swiping left and right, love feels less like a grand romance and more like a game of digital roulette. My dating history is a collection of awkward first dates, ghosted conversations, and a few were just not a match texts that sting more than you think. I've been on so many coffee dates I could probably qualify as a barista. I met Sarah through an app, of course. Her profile was different. No cliche photos on a mountaintop, just a genuine, slightly crooked smile, and a bio that read, "Just trying to keep my houseplants alive." It's not going well. I was intrigued. Our first date wasn't at a trendy bar. It was at a dusty old bookstore. We spent hours talking about everything and nothing, from our favorite childhood books to our shared fear of parallel parking. It felt real. After a few incredible months, I did what I always do when things get good. I panicked. The old familiar feeling crept in, the one that whispers, "This is too good to be true. You're going to mess this up." I started overthinking her texts, questioning her every word. I became distant, creating a gap between us that wasn't there before. I was so afraid of the relationship ending that I started sabotaging it myself. It's a classic self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? One evening, she looked at me with those honest eyes and said, "Leo, what's going on? You're here, but you're not really here." And she was right. I was a ghost in my own relationship. I gave her some lame excuse about being stressed with work, but we both knew it was more than that. The space between us grew wider until one day, it was just over. The silence in my apartment after she left was deafening. It wasn't just quiet. It was empty. The ghost of her laughter lingered in the corners, and her favorite mug sat unwashed in the sink. I fell into a rut. My days blurred into a cycle of work, takeout, and mindless scrolling. I was a zombie, going through the motions. I avoided my friends who I knew would ask questions I didn't have the answers to. "How are you doing?" They'd text. "I'm good." I'd lie, staring at the ceiling. The truth was, I was lost. I had built a fortress around my heart to avoid getting hurt, but I'd only managed to lock myself inside. Loneliness became my closest companion. I realized I didn't just miss Sarah, I missed the person I was when I was with her. I missed feeling seen. One rainy Saturday, I was clearing out a closet, a pathetic attempt to feel productive, when I found an old shoebox. Inside was a mess of forgotten things from my childhood. A clunky video game controller, faded photographs, and a journal from when I was a teenager. I cringed as I read my angsty entries about unrequited crushes and drama class. But then I found a page where I had written down all my dreams. I wanted to travel the world, write a novel, learn to play the guitar. The list was long and ambitious, written in the hopeful scrawl of a kid who believed anything was possible. And I just started to cry. Not just for Sarah, but for that kid. Where did he go? When did I trade his dreams for spreadsheets and a fear of everything? That dusty shoebox was a wake-up call. I realized I'd been waiting for someone or something to come and give my life meaning, whether it was the perfect job or the perfect relationship. I was looking for a co-pilot, but I had completely abandoned the cockpit of my own life. I had been so focused on finding the one that I had forgotten to be the one for myself. It was time to stop floating and start steering, so I made a deal with myself. For the next few months, I would go on a different kind of date. I would date myself. I would finally do all the things I'd been putting off, waiting for a partner to do them with. The first thing I did was buy a cheap second-hand guitar. My first attempts at playing sounded like a cat being strangled, but for the first time in a long time, I was creating something, not just consuming. I was making noise, and it felt good. My self-dating journey was awkward at first. I took myself to the movies, buying a single ticket, feeling a bit self-conscious. I went to a nice restaurant and asked for a table for one, trying to ignore the sympathetic glances from the hostess. But slowly, something shifted. I started to enjoy my own company. One found a certain peace in the solitude. I started a cooking class, something I always wanted to do with Sarah. I was terrible at it. My first attempt at a souffle was a sad, flat pancake, but I was laughing. Really laughing. My classmates were a mix of people, all there for their own reasons, and we bonded over our culinary disasters. I was making new friends. I started going for long runs in the park, not to get in shape, but just to feel the sun on my face and my feet hitting the pavement. It was a rhythm, a forward motion. One weekend, I packed a small bag, got in my car, and just drove. No destination in mind. I ended up in a small coastal town I'd never heard of. I spent 2 days walking on the beach, eating at local diners, and talking to strangers. I sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean, the wind whipping through my hair, and I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't running away from my problems. I was running towards myself. I wasn't just Leo, the guy with the boring job and the broken heart anymore. I was Leo, the guy who was learning guitar, the guy who could almost make a decent omelet, the guy who wasn't afraid to eat dinner alone. I was starting to like this guy. I was becoming my own best friend. A few months later, I was walking through that same bookstore where Sarah and I had our first date. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just enjoying the quiet and the smell of old paper. And then, I saw her. She was in the poetry section, a slight smile on her face as she read. My heart did a funny little flip. The old Leo would have frozen or maybe even turned and walked away. But I wasn't the old Leo anymore. I took a deep breath, walked over, and said, I always wondered if you managed to keep those houseplants alive. She looked up, surprised, and then a genuine warm smile spread across her face. Leo, she said, most of them survived. It turns out they just needed a little more attention. We started talking, catching up. It was easy, comfortable. There was no pressure, no expectation. We were just two people, changed by time, reconnecting in a place where our story began. I don't know what will happen with Sarah. Maybe we'll be friends, maybe more. But for the first time, the uncertainty doesn't scare me. Because this story isn't about whether or not I get the girl in the end. It's about me. It's about a guy who was lost and found his way back, not to a person, but to himself. I learned that you can't pour from an empty cup, and my cup is finally starting to feel full. Life is still messy and complicated, and I still can't parallel park to save my life. But I'm not floating anymore. I'm steering. And for now, that's more than enough. The instruction manual for life. I'm starting to think there isn't one. We're all just writing our own as we go. And you know what? I can't wait to see what the next chapter holds. Thanks for watching, and if this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about figuring it all out.